One-story house. They living on a ranch, Katie.
This is the best team he's ever been on, by far. Not even close.
Because it's OpTic.
Katie's trying to get me jumped in the parking lot at Chuck E. Cheese.
Welcome to Reverse Sweep's Power Rankings, presented by USAA Insurance. I'm your host, Katie Bedford, joined by Pacman and Enable. Guys, we've actually had movement in these power rankings. I'm super excited about it. How do you guys feel about how everything turned out for this week?
I like it. Like to see a little bit of movement, some surprise wins and performances, you know? Love to see a little shakeup.
Especially right now. Because right now, I feel like we're in the time where there isn't going to be much movement because you know the teams that are good, you know the teams that are bad, and there is a bigger gap than in the beginning of the year. But just being able to see some teams improve, some teams slide, it keeps things interesting, I guess you could say.
It certainly does. Let's take a look at some of the results, how we got to these power rankings before we do our big reveal. Maybe no surprise on day one, teams like FaZe and Dallas taking out teams like Seattle and Gorillas, but Paris, they 3-1'd LA Thieves. New York, a close Game 5 win over Florida. Minnesota taking out Seattle. Their woes continue. OpTic, a 3-1 on Paris. And then you get to day 4. Well, FaZe New York, they win against their opponents in Thieves and Dallas. Florida able to take out Gorillas. And that leads us to our standings for stage 4. Where are we now that week 4 has concluded? Well, FaZe New York on top of groups A and B. Teams like OpTic and Florida right behind them. Feels a little weird to say Toronto sitting in 3rd right now, but Seattle Gorillas, perhaps less of surprise to see them at the bottom of the pack in their respective groups, looking like they might be starting to anticipate a loser's bracket run in our first LAN of the year. And that brings us to our power rankings. Enable and Pacman, let's pull them up on screen, see how you guys have settled all of these teams now that week 2 is done. And well, you know, there is something wonderful about the familiar, the tried and true. In Seattle, they are in 12th. They haven't moved. How long? Do you guys know how long it's been since we've moved them?
They hold the record. I don't know. They have the record.
In overall loss streak right now, they're tied with Rocker on a 10 loss streak in CDL. But yeah, how long have they been? Or 12? 10. Yeah, 10.
Sheesh. I didn't even know it was that bad.
They could set their own record, though. That'd be cool. You have a record. Yeah.
That'll be one positive for them, right?
At this point, you might as well go for it. At least that way, when you turn it around, you can be like, we had the record for the worst, and now we're the best. You know what I mean? It's all bad.
That's all we got.
It's all bad.
For Seattle, I'm sorry.
It's like the opposite effect of when we talk about Atlanta. We're like, yeah, they're really nasty. You know what I mean? I mean, you guys know.
Like, yeah.
I do just want to say, I can't believe that they're the worst team in the league. Like, when you look at their team on paper, they should not be any, like, I'm not saying that they're the best. They should be the best on paper, but they should not be dead last with those players. And yet they just suck. Like, they
make magic happen.
I really agree with you. And when you watch them play, they actually show more flashes than people on, like, individually, they show flashes more than people on other teams. I saw Sam go crazy to win a map. Pierce had 14 in the S&D.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, you guys have it, clearly, but you can't finish anything. Like, you suck.
I will say, though, like, you can attribute a lot of it to, obviously, the players and the teamwork and the whatever, but they have no luck. I don't think I've ever seen a team that's more unlucky. Nothing ever goes their way. And, like, that's why I said a lot of it's them, right? A lot of it's very much, like, just what happens for them in the game, but goddamn, they never get a magical moment. Not one time ever. Do they win the one? Do they have the crazy? It just never happens. And it's incredible to me. They get nothing ever.
Katie, what is that quote? You make your own luck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're
making their luck in terms of records. They could lose again and have
put yourself in a position to get lucky. All right.
That's a quote. No, that's a quote.
I like that.
They just they can't close. It's simple as that. John said it. They just can't find a way to close out games. Yeah. They are the biggest choke artists in the league. Because they have had some very close series this whole year. But when you're that bad, you don't win. And they're not winning. They're tied for the longest L streak in the CDL history. So, by the way, when did Minnesota lose 10 series in a row?
Oh, last season. They were terrible. This is from last season. Yeah, I don't know why my head went directly to this season. But last season, they didn't win a match for like 3 months or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a historic.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, all I can say is Seattle, please don't set a new record for that next week. Please. We are begging. Let's move on to Gorillas. They've moved down into 11th. They were sitting at 10th for a while. Guys, they have great teamwork, and that's about it. Why'd you move them down one?
One-story house. They living on a ranch, Katie. I mean, they went, 0-2 as well this week. Got absolutely bodied.
Mm-hmm.
They have no signs of life. You know,
they won one map this week.
Yeah, and they need to just blow everything up. Not even from the players. They need to rebuild the team from the management down, in my opinion. Because when you're Los Angeles, okay, you have the money to really go out and get people. I know it's COVID and whatever, but that's like LA is a destination people would want to live in as well. Like, you should have a better team than this. And it seems like this team is just, there's no shot any of these players are part of LAG after this year. If there's one single player on this team going forward, you got to kick LAG out of the league. You have to, because they clearly don't know what they're doing. I'm just saying, like, I hate being that guy. Oh, I did it. Yeah, I was pretty good at not like, oh, I don't want to say this, but like, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. They had like a little run, John, I think, when Sheen first came in, but they just have such a low ceiling. It's a rancher, you know. They're the LAG ranchers, in my opinion.
I mean, you can't do better than what Ian just did. It's facts. Let me just tack onto that though, because of this information I just learned. You know who was on that Minnesota team last year with the longest losing streak in CDL history?
Oh, don't do it. Don't do it.
You know who was on that team?
Who was it?
Assault and Silly. So your genius decision was to bring in the biggest losers in the history of the CDL and put them together. Those guys are great guys. I mean, I love Cheen. The guys are all like really good guys, really. But we're just talking about pure competition here. And like Ian said,
nothing personal.
Nothing personal whatsoever. You gotta go. Like, you gotta go. I mean, there's a reason why I'm not in the league. Nothing personal. I love myself. Gotta go.
Gotta go.
You know what I mean? Gotta go. I had to go.
I love me some me, but gotta go.
Gotta go. Exactly. And you know I love me. So if I had to go, I mean, you gotta go. You guys suck. This is 2 years running. 2 years running. Rough.
Well, a team that you also decided sucked a little more than last week, London. You moved them down 2 spots to 10th. Why are they in the double digits, gentlemen? What's going on with London that you bumped them down?
Currently in the stage, they start out where they had a close series versus Dallas. And then they didn't win a series. They got 3-0 by Florida, 3-0 by Toronto. Both of those teams were obviously very good. Don't get me wrong. But no signs of life. You know, it's what you said, Katie, where you can have good losses. You know, you want to win the series, but if you can be competitive and
you show promise.
Yeah, that is something to look forward to. When you get beat down 3-0, there's nothing good to say about it. And I think there were a couple other teams that just showed more promise. So London also gotta go. No, I'm just kidding. But they just rough week, no promise, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you play the top teams. You're expected to lose, but like Ian said, make the games close. And I mean, we understand you're the underdog. Team's been through a lot. You're picking up a new player, new to this level of competition. He showed flashes to begin with. It just, honestly, their other roster was better, right? Like, it just was. It's a tough spot to be in, and they need to get back to the drawing board and show us again why they chose to pick up Afro and whatever happened with bringing Alex back, and just making sure that they continue to head in the right direction, because we all know the stuff that they went through this year. No Trey, started the year with Parasite, and they just went through so much that to land here would be tough at this time of the year. Like, hopefully they're making the decisions that they think will get them to the best possible shot of somehow fighting to make top 8. But who knows? Maybe this is some sort of developmental thing for them, and that could be another play for them.
A reminder, Reverse Sweep is presented by USAA Insurance. They make it easy to insure all of your stuff, like your rigs and gear, and they have your back. Eligibility restrictions apply, and insurance provided by United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas. Let's talk about Minnesota. They are our first one, well, aside from Seattle, whatever, they're our first one who has not moved. They're sitting at 9th. Are you just same old with them?
Yeah. I mean, they
got to prove something more first.
Exactly. They did beat Seattle. They did beat Paris. But once again, I just don't know. Like right now, okay, you know that there's big differences from the top teams and the rest of the pack. And I feel like when you're looking to see where they could be at, it's all about potential. And Minnesota's been pretty stagnant as of late. I know they picked up Major Maniac again, and they are sitting at 2-1, I believe, overall in stage 4. But they really have to prove themselves and compete versus a top team, in my opinion.
Right. I agree with Ian. I do feel like they have more potential than some of these other teams around them because we've seen them compete at a really high level when they had accuracy. To me, the move, obviously, I believe that if they played all these matches with accuracy, they'd be 2-1 the same. They really haven't, they haven't hit that point where they had to play those top teams yet.
Right.
But when they hit there and we see what they do in the following weeks, then we can make adjustments to our power rankings accordingly, right? Just beating. That's the problem with having one match in the week and beating them. Like when you beat Seattle, it doesn't mean much to us. It just you're supposed to, and if you don't, that's the issue. That's the bare minimum, exactly. So you do that. Some of the games were fairly close. It's not enough for us to really jump you up the list. That's all. So we'll see what happens in the future with them.
Well, it's all been downhill at this point, our power rankings, and it's not done quite yet. LA Thieves fallen down 2 places into the bottom 6. You have them in 8th. They went 0-2 on the week. I'm gonna start with Pacman first. Ian, you get a break. Thieves, Pacman.
I mean, they won 1 map for the week, and this is the week we said we're gonna see how far they've come. How far did they come? I mean, they went backwards. So the move with Hugh, I really believe that if you're gonna make that move at that stage, you have to stick with it, or at least be somewhat honest with us and tell us what's going on, so we know why you're not sticking with it. But once you make that move, that's kind of like that's a gear-defining move. You're going out of your way to buy Kyler out, which is probably ridiculous, and add him to your team when your team is looking good, and then you switch it up on us right away. And now you see where they're at. They're at a place where they're struggling. They're never going to get... I'm willing to say that they're never going to get back to the form that they had before, where they were looking like a top 3 team. They were right there, right on the cusp of winning. And here they stand. They didn't even get close to beating a FaZe in the map. And then to lose to Paris is unacceptable, in my opinion. Paris did play well. Scraps played had a really fantastic series. But that's just not a loss a team like LA Thieves should have at this point in the season. They're trying to be a team that's competing for championships, and they're honestly not close. So that's why we're having them in 8th.
It's your turn now.
Oh, I thought you would just forget.
Yeah.
No,
I'm sorry.
I mean, John said it best. Didn't think they were going to be FaZe. Okay, would love for it to have been a lot closer and them, compete with them instead of just getting bodied. But that series versus Paris is a must-win series. Now, it's not a must-win, like they need that series to make playoffs and make champs, but just for the overall team morale and their mentality. Like, that was a big win on the side of Paris Legion, because LAT should not have lost to them. They have not looked good in this stage at all. And, it's tough when you bench a player, you bring them back. It's going to be hard to kind of get to the point that you were previously. And I don't know where they do go from here. Do they just ride it out, or do they try and swap players around? I mean, they have so much talent just in that organization with Slasher, with Hugh. But nothing has been working the way that they wanted it to. So It's not good, Katie. I'll tell you what, it's not good.
It's scary is what it is. Now you're at a spot where you're about to go to LAN with one of the best ARs in COD history on your bench, and you're not good. Like, how do you even make that? How do you justify it when you're not good? At least when they were turning up and trending up, you could justify it.
This is
Even
why
then,
it's a
I was
lose
like,
lose.
that was asinine. But now that you're going to LAN, it's
because
ridiculous.
the thing is, though, is they're looking bad, right? And we're talking about what if they do make another change. But with what we just said on, like, oh, if a player gets benched, it doesn't always work out. If you make a move, you've already benched everyone that you have on the bench currently. So, like, I don't know if they even want to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
No, that's true.
It's just like a clusterfuck of a situation. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. It makes my brain hurt thinking about it. I don't know what I want them to win so bad, but I don't know what they do. Like John said, I don't think they're close to being a contender. At least not right now, no.
All right. Well, good news. We're moving on. Bad news. We're still probably going to end up talking about Thieves because we're going to highlight our CDL Power Rankings biggest mover presented by Control Freak, and that is Paris Legion. They went up 4 places. I assume somewhat in part due to that 3-1 over Thieves. Pacman, take it away. Paris, our biggest mover, up 4.
Honestly, the win versus Thieves huge. They played tremendous Call of Duty for them, obviously beating Thieves. Scraps had his best series of the year. They did what they had to do. They beat what's supposed to be a pretty strong team, at least an upper middle pack team, and they did what they had to do. That's a huge win. And then they went and played OpTic, and honestly, they choked map 1. That series could have been a lot different. That series against OpTic was competitive. They played really well. I believe it came down to one last break, and they needed to hold P2 on Garrison, and they just didn't do it. But they're right there. Like, you can easily go there and be like, okay, what's wrong with our freaking setup? Let's hold this, and we beat OpTic in game 1. They win game 3. They're up in the series against another top team. Paris is trending in the right direction. Whatever Zap just adds to the team, I don't know. He might have done the same thing with London, but they look better. They look better. Even if Zaps is getting deuced on in hard points, at least they're on the same page. So kind of like it with Zed, where sometimes Zed gets added to the teams and he might not be the most ridiculous fragger, but the team starts to gel. And I think that's what Zap is starting to do with this team, and Paris is coming together. So props to them.
Oh. I don't know why I just did that, but yes.
Not done quite yet. Focus on Paris.
I mean, they're just a team. I might be a little bit of a Paris Legion fan, but they, like John said, they got a big win against LAT. They honestly, at the very least, should have went map 5 to OpTic. Like, the team looks a lot more in sync. They look more cohesive. Scrap seems to really be hitting stride in Cold War. He needs to kind of turn into that consistent Slayer, consistent superstar player for them if they want any chance going forward. But like, there's so many positives for this team, and when you look at where they started in the year, you have to give them props. You know, they're a team that I think that they do have a higher ceiling than most other teams in the league. They're obviously not there, but they're trending upwards. They got a big win over LAT. I mean, they were at least competing versus FaZe when they played in the stage. Versus OpTic, they going game 5. Who knows if it goes game 5? You know, if they could have had that series. So there's a lot to look forward to within Paris, and their S&D was great overall, which I think is huge, because they're kind of I don't want to say just a randomly put together team, but they're a randomly put together team.
They kind of are.
Yeah. You know, so to be able to have success in S&D is crucial, because it's a lot easier to really work on the fundamentals when it comes to respawn, hardpoint, and control.
Do you guys think they can get into the top half? That randomly put together team?
That's tough. I mean, I feel like you have 4 slots, maybe 5 now with how Florida's playing, that are like kind of locked up. So that, who's that leave? Dallas? Do I believe they can become better than Dallas? Nah.
It's tough. They're so far behind.
It's tough.
They're so far behind. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if they do make it close. I don't think they'll have enough to kind of get them over that hump and put them in the top half. But they'll make it interesting, I think.
They start pulling out more of their hard points. I feel like they were. I think I saw a stat they were 1-9 in their last 10, but most of those weren't with Zap. But they're playing some close games. If they can start pulling some of them out, then we could see some true movement out of them towards the upper half.
Well, who knows? Maybe Paris will be our biggest mover, presented by Control Freak once again, but they're our first to kick that off. Let's move on, though. Sitting one above them, switching places, actually was in 7th last week. Dallas, they are up 1 as well. Guys, despite that Game 5 loss to New York, we've already kind of talked. They look better, but Dallas, you have them moving up into the top half. Why is that, Pacman? Why do you have them there?
I mean, they look solid. They look really solid, and they showed that they can compete with the top. So, I mean, this is as high as we can move them. They did lose to New York, but they were in a spot where they should have won Map 1. They should have won Map 5. To me, that bodes really well for them. They're looking like they're getting close to getting back to the form where people are going to be scared of them again. And if they're playing New York that close, who knows how high their ceiling is right now, even at this moment. We just have to see it. We have to see them play these top teams. And, I mean, Dallas obviously has the pedigree, too. Right? They have championship pedigree all across the board. Vivid should be hungry. I don't really know him personally like that, but he should be hungry. This is the best team he's ever.
He has an incredible opportunity.
Yes, This is the best team he's ever been on by far, not even close. And he has a chance to actually compete for championships. And if that doesn't light a fire under your ass, I don't know what will. To go from a spot where you're getting beat down with average players to now you have some top championship level winning people around you, whatever the term may be, and he needs to perform at that level. And I think that they really do have a shot at competing at the top again.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Johnny. I mean, they looked a little rough when they first picked up Vivid, but I think he was just uncomfortable. You know, it was a completely different team, different play style, how they view things. But they're finally starting to get back to where they need to be, right? To where they were earlier in the year. They had a dominant 3-0 win over LAG, a team that they're supposed to beat. And then going into the NYSL series, like we've talked about, they should have won that series. Like I know they didn't, but they should have won the series. They choked it. They had it in the palm of their hands, and they didn't close. But Vivid looked great throughout that series. I think it was probably his best series so far playing for Dallas Empire. And it was the best that teams looked in a while, because NYSL is a top 3 team. So taking him to that Map 5, yeah, you would like to have won it, but being there and competing is what you like to see. And they have a great team. We don't need to talk about it anymore. They won, you know, they have players who won the championship last year. So they have the highest potential. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why they're here. They also have been playing well, but they have the highest potential. Like, I could see this team being a contender if they keep improving. Whereas you can't say that for many.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they can do it. And I mean, Vivid, hey, you go from a team that doesn't have a shot of making it to champs this year to a team that will be there. So make it count on that run. Now we get into the top 5, which are a bit boring because absolutely nothing has changed about them. I'm not sure how much in particular there is to say about FaZe, Toronto, and New York. They all continue to look incredible. But something I actually noticed in the comments last week, which I want to touch on with you guys, is that people seem to disagree with Florida being in 4th above OpTic. So maybe that's kind of the big thing to talk about in these top 5. Why do you guys continue to have Florida in 4th, OpTic in 5th? What's the decision making that goes into that?
For me, it's pretty simple. For me, it's which of those 2 teams do I believe has a better chance of beating any of the top teams in matches? And I believe without a doubt in my head right now that is Florida. I feel like they are playing consistently at a high level. They have the top end ability, just like OpTic has. Like, Big Wake has proven to be a ridiculous superstar in this league now. They have the top end ability, and they do have the teamwork, and it looks like when it comes to playing those top teams, that Florida has what it takes to stay right in the series no matter what at all times. OpTic, on the other hand, has shown weakness in that when it comes to these other top teams. If you were to match up Florida versus OpTic, now we're talking about something different. Maybe OpTic beats Florida. right? Maybe you give the edge to OpTic even in that match, but then you get to the rest of the teams, and instantly Florida has a better chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as this. I'm taking OpTic over all the teams below them, but I'm taking Florida against the top teams. And that's what matters. It does, like, you're supposed to beat the teams that aren't good. If you look at this stage, like John said, Florida's got a win over Toronto. They took NYSL to game 5, a series that they could have won. Obviously, this stage OpTic has only played one top team in FaZe, but they got the absolute breaks beat off them. It wasn't even close. There was no pulse in the series, where I think Florida makes it more interesting. I just think Florida is better. They're better against the top teams. It's just as simple as that, which is weird, I guess, thinking about it. You would think like, oh, OpTic.
Weird to say, yeah. You wouldn't assume that. It's not a natural thing to say.
But OpTic might have a
fair?
mental block, Katie. It's possible.
Well, OpTic in their mental block, guys, keeps them at 5th. Pacman.
What would be the argument for putting OpTic ahead of Florida? Like, maybe we're just thinking at it from one.
Because it's OpTic.
Okay, well, Katie's trying to get me jumped in the parking lot at Chuck E. Cheese. I'm not trying to get jumped. Like, what is the actual
Get drowned
argument?
in the ball pit.
I don't think there is one right now. I mean, Florida could easily be 4-0 in the group right now. They've played 2 top teams, beat one of them, lost a very close one. OpTic's only played 1 top team so far in this stage, this phase. And once again, it wasn't close. No. You know, with me, you, and Katie, it could have did the exact same thing if we
gone
played
out there and got the brakes beat off us 100%.
So I don't know what the argument
fun,
is.
I'm good.
But it's definitely not what Katie. I don't know what Katie was saying. I don't co-sign that.
No, what I'm saying is there is that when someone comments that and says, "Oh my God, Florida's above OpTic," there is a part of it that has to do with just kind of an OpTic bias, like someone just saying that doesn't make sense. But
can't agree nor disagree on that one, Katie.
Yeah, I know. Chuck E. Cheese, I'm gonna get beat up, whatever. But I think we can all say what we can all agree on is that our top 3 are really good, and they're going to stay in the positions they're in, and they're going to keep being really good. And who knows? Maybe there could be some movement, but right now our top 3 will stay our top 3. And those are the power rankings for the week. Again, guys, you did a great job in the comments last time. Please let us know once again what you think about the power rankings, what you would like changed, and maybe we will try and answer some of those comments going into week 3. That'll be it for Enable, Pacman, myself. Let us know again in the comments, guys. What do you think about the power rankings?